are being carried out now in the Virgin Islands and in Puerto Rico.
At 6:22 a.m., behind sealed doors and federal insignia, a senior official delivered a statement that never reached live television. This morning, we executed a coordinated financial seizure that exposed one of the largest offshore laundering systems ever uncovered in U.S. territory. The briefing room was silent. S.T. Thomas, U.S. Virgin Islands. One private banking institution, subterranean vault complex, $890 million in frozen assets, encrypted, blackmail archives tied to high-profile clients, and a laundering network that had quietly serviced cartel money for over a decade. At the center of it all stood a man no one had ever voted for, feared, or questioned, a bank executive. Polished, credentialed, untouchable officials would later describe the operation as the most dangerous financial raid since the post-9/11's restructuring of offshore banking oversight. Not because of violence, but because of how deeply the system had been normalized. And they warned this wasn't just about money, it was about leverage. The operation began at 4:11 a.m. when St. Thomas was still wrapped in darkness and ocean air. Palm trees barely moved. The harbor lights flickered against calm water. Everything about the island suggested peace. That illusion collapsed in minutes, unmarked. Vehicles rolled through back streets toward a limestone building, overlooking the Portan architectural blend of luxury and discretion. From the outside, it housed a private financial services firm catering to international clients and legacy wealth. Inside, it housed something else entirely. DEA and ICE strike teams moved simultaneously. No sirens, no announcements. Electronic locks were overridden. Backup generators were disabled before alarms could cycle by the time the first door came down. The building was already isolated from the outside world. Agents flowed through marble, hallways, and glass-walled offices still scented with fresh polish. Computer screens glowed unattended. Coffee cups sat half-finished on desks. No one inside had expected this hour. The real target lay beneath them, a private elevator marked biometric secured leg to a subterranean vault system carved directly into the island's bedrock. When agents reached it, they didn't rush, they waited. At 4:27 a.m., the final authorization code was entered using credentials seized from the executive suite. Upstairs, the doors opened. What lay inside wasn't a vault, it was an archive. Rows of sealed cash containers stacked floor to ceiling, gold bars stamped with foreign registry marks, hard drives stored in temperature-controlled cases, paper files sealed in vacuum sleeves, each one labeled with client identifiers instead of names. When forensic accountants began preliminary counts, the numbers climbed fast. 200 million, 400 million, 700 million, by sunrise. The figure stabilized at $890 million in assets, laundered through an offshore banking network that had functioned as the financial spine for multiple cartel operations. But the money wasn't what stopped the room cold. Inside a secondary chamber, agents discovered a separate system air-gapped, encrypted, and meticulously organized. Analysts accessed it on-site under armed supervision. The first decrypted folder contained video files, the second contained correspondence, the third contained payment schedules labeled not as bribes, but as retention. Guarantees. This wasn't just laundering, it was insurance. As the building was secured, the bank's senior executive identified in internal filings as Marcus Vail. Chief financial manager was escorted from his office in silence. He didn't ask questions. He didn't protest. He already knew. Vail had spent his career cultivating trust, offshore structuring, asset shielding, regulatory navigation. His firm marketed itself as a fortress for wealth safe from volatility, scrutiny, and exposure, and for cartel money. It had been exactly that. By 7:06 a.m., federal cyber forensics teams arrived. Inside a secured lab space established within the building, analysts began mapping the digital ecosystem. Tied to the vault. What emerged was staggering. Shell companies layered through the Cayman Islands, trusts rooted through European intermediaries, nonprofit foundations acting as financial buffers, everything designed to fragment accountability. At the top of the interface appeared an internal codename, Operation Silent Reserve. Money moved in disciplined cycles. Drug profits entered as foreign investments. Funds exited as portfolio reallocations. Every transaction carried legal cover, regulatory justification, and plausible deniability. One analyst pointed to a visualization looming across the screen. "This isn't money laundering," she said. "This is financial engineering for crime." Veils. Credentials appeared everywhere. Authorization tokens, compliance overrides. Risk exemptions stamped with internal approvals no regulator had ever questioned. The system didn't hide transactions, it normalized them. As the data expanded, another layer surfaced, one that shifted the tone of the operation instantly. Silent reserve didn't just protect money, it protected people. Files detailed leverage portfolios on high net worth clients, recorded calls, compromising footage, private communications harvested and stored with precision. Each asset tagged with a valuation, not in dollars, but in influence. These weren't random clients. They were decision-makers, gatekeepers, people whose silence mattered. 1. Investigators summarized it quietly. "This vault wasn't built to store cash," he said. "It was built to control outcomes." As dawn broke over St. Thomas, the scope widened beyond the island. DEA and ICE intelligence units began correlating vault data with ongoing cartel investigations. Routes matched, payments aligned. Entire trafficking corridors suddenly made sense. Whenever enforcement stalled, whenever investigations vanished, whenever oversight softened. The money was here. First, by 10:18 a.m., Federal Command authorized the next phase. Not arrests, but containment. Accounts tied to silent reserve were frozen mid-transfer. International cooperation requests were issued quietly. Legal holds were placed on trusts that had never been questioned in their existence. And then came the internal corruption indicators. Audit logs revealed. Regulatory audits delayed on request. Compliance reviews rerouted. Oversight committees dissolved. Quietly after donor interventions, number threats. No coercion, just leverage applied at the right moment, one recovered. Internal memos summarized the philosophy behind the system. Exposure is inefficient. Stability is achieved through mutual vulnerability. That sentence circulated through briefing rooms like a warning dot by midday. Marcus Vail sat alone in a secured room, staring at a screen filled with evidence he once believed was untouchable. When asked why he built the system, he didn't speak about cartels. He spoke about inevitability. "Money always looks for shelter," he said. "I just built the safest one, but safety." Investigators realized had come at a cost measured far beyond dollars, because every protected transaction represented drugs that reached streets, addictions funded, lives erased quietly, while balance sheets stayed clean. As agents sealed the vault doors for the final time, one truth had become unavoidable. This wasn't a criminal network hiding in the shadows, it was a financial system hiding in plain sight. And what investigators had uncovered in St. Thomas was only the foundation, because silent reserve wasn't designed for a single cartel, it was designed to outlive them all. Disclaimer: this story is a fictional dramatization inspired by real-world issues and is told solely for storytelling purposes. By the second night, St. Thomas no longer felt like an island. It felt like a sealed room. Ports slowed without explanation. Private flights were quietly delayed. Financial institutions across the territory received identical legal notices within minutes of each other. Freezes, holds, reviews. No press, no statements, just silence and compliance. Inside a temporary command center overlooking the harbor, analysts worked without pause. The deeper they went into Operation Silent Reserve, the clearer the architecture became. This wasn't a bank abusing loopholes, it was a parallel financial government. The system divided clients into tiers. Tier 1 cash-only cartel precedes high volume, high risk. Tier 2 intermediaries, logistics firms, shell corporations, shipping contractors. Tier 3 influence holders, individuals whose exposure could alter investigations, legislation, or enforcement priorities. Each tier had its own protocols, different vault compartments, different encryption keys, different response plans, and at the center of all of it sat Marcus Vail, not as a kingpin, as a custodian. Files showed how Silent Reserve managed crises. When a cartel route was exposed, money was quietly When an investigation approached too closely, pressure wasn't applied directly. A donation would surface, a foundation would intervene, a consultant would be hired. Oversight dissolved into courtesy. Oversight dissolved into courtesy. By day 2, 6:40 a.m., federal investigators initiated the next phase-coordinated takedowns across financial nodes tied to the vault. Offices in Miami, San Juan, and offshore territories were accessed simultaneously. Servers were mirrored. Accounts were frozen mid-dash keystroke. In one case, a 7-figure transfer halted with only seconds remaining in its authorization window. The system had never anticipated interruption, because interruption had never been allowed as arrests expanded. The psychological toll became visible. Junior financial managers began cooperating within hours. They hadn't thought of themselves as criminals. They were structuring portfolios, managing risk, protecting assets. Cartels were an abstraction until the consequences arrived. One analyst, reviewing overdose data linked to protected routes, pushed her chair back slowly. "All this math," she said, staring at the screen, "and every line ends with a body." That realization reshaped the investigation. This was no longer about money laundering. It was about accountability for invisibility as the third day unfolded. Evidence from the vault began intersecting with unrelated cases that had stalled years earlier. Missing subpoenas, lost warrants, investigations quietly downgraded without explanation. The common denominator wasn't politics, it was finance. Whenever scrutiny approached certain corridors, Silent Reserve's fingerprints appeared days or weeks earlier. Funding shifts, asset movements, leverage files updated. The vault had functioned as an early warning system, not just for cartels, for anyone who needed protection from consequences. The scope reached a breaking point. A sealed briefing was delivered to senior federal leadership. No slides were leaked, no summaries released, but those present later described the tone as somber. Because Silent Reserve wasn't unique, it was exemplary. It demonstrated how modern criminal power no longer relies on intimidation. It relies on infrastructure so embedded that removing it threatens the systems around it, shut down the vault, and legitimate economies shook. That realization forced a hard choice. Proceed anyway, Marcus. Vail was brought in again for questioning. This time, investigators didn't focus on individual transactions. They focused on philosophy. Who did you think you were serving? One agent asked. Vail exhaled slowly. The world as it exists, he replied, not the one people pretend to live in. He spoke of volatility, of unstable governments, of wealthy clients terrified of exposure, of cartels seeking predictability, not chaos. I didn't create demand, he said. I created order. That word order was noted because order, when divorced from morality, becomes something else entirely. By the end of the week, over $1.6 billion in assets tied to Silent Reserve were frozen globally. Dozens of executives were detained. Compliance officers resigned overnight. Entire trust structures collapsed under scrutiny, but the damage couldn't be reversed. Investigators compiled internal assessments that never reached public view. Drug shipments already distributed, addictions already formed, communities already fractured. Money had moved faster than justice ever could. In one late-night meeting, a senior agent addressed the team. "We'd like to imagine crime as something loud," he said. "Something violent, something obvious. But this was quiet. This spoke compliance." Silence followed. Because everyone in the room understood the implication. The next Silent Reserve wouldn't announce itself. It wouldn't hide. Offshore, it would embed deeper as operations. Wound down in St. Thomas, the vault doors were sealed permanently. Evidence was cataloged. Servers were dismantled. What had once been a fortress of secrecy became a controlled crime scene. Outside, the island returned to its routines. Boats moved again. Music drifted from the harbor. Tourists never knew how close the global financial system had come to exposing its own underbelly. In the final internal report, a single paragraph summarized the case. This operation confirms that modern cartel power is no longer sustained by violence alone. It is sustained by institutions willing to profit from silence. When financial systems become shields, crime becomes invisible. No press conference ever repeated those words. But within federal agencies, the lesson remained: follow the money. And you don't just find criminals, you find the systems that decided they were acceptable. And once those systems exist, they don't collapse easily.